Commission meeting of June 5th, 2013 to order. Would you please roll call?
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Roth?
Here.
Commissioner Mum?
Here.
Commissioner Pauley?
Here.
Mayor Neely?
Here, thank you. Would you all join me in the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Well, we have some great ceremonies and information coming before us. We're going to have here the Oregon presentation from, I'll have their staff introduce the person, but an Oregon Heritage All-Star Community Award to the City of Oregon City. Christina, you want to lead us in?
Thank you, Mayor Neely, Commissioners.
Because we got a big audience here, why don't you tell us your role here in Oregon City?
Sure. As the preservation planner, I've worked with all of our heritage organizations this spring to apply for the Heritage All-Star application. We were pleased to hear last month that we were awarded it by the Oregon Heritage Commission. And tonight we have Curry Gill with the State Historic Preservation Office and two Heritage Commission members who will be here to tell you more about the program and award the award to Mayor Neely on behalf of Oregon City. So I will take my leave.
Thank you, Curry Gill.
I'm Curry Gill, and I'm with Oregon Heritage, which includes the State Historic Preservation Office and the Oregon Heritage Commission. And our office last year started a program called the Oregon Heritage All-Star Community Program. And Oregon City applied, and as Christina said at the last commission meeting, it was awarded to the city. And we're actually thrilled because we followed quite a bit of what's gone on in Oregon City and worked with several of the organizations involved and are happy to be able to celebrate them tonight. The purpose of the program is threefold. The first is to acknowledge all the heritage work that's going on in the communities. The second is to let communities understand some of the other potential heritage efforts that could take place and help improve and support happy, healthy local community. And also to understand the resources that we have available to help those kinds of projects. Finally, we want to support those projects or those organizations and heritage efforts in working together more collaboratively over time. And so we've already started seeing some of that work happen in some of the other communities that have been designated. In order to qualify, cities or communities need to achieve 15 of 20 criteria. They're all heritage-related criteria, and they tend to be related to the collection or documentation of historic objects, including buildings, and then using that heritage information to provide access to the community for it, provide public education, and use it as a base for economic development, like the Main Street program, and other efforts, including heritage tourism. So as you all know, because you live here, you've got a lot of that going on, and we're really happy to be here to celebrate that. I have with me tonight David Lewis, who's currently the chair of the Oregon Heritage Commission, and Mary Lou Diamond, who's one of the commissioners. And David's going to just take a few moments to tell you why Oregon City was so special, at least in the eyes of the commission, in this application.
Thank you for having me. A little bit about me. I'm newly chair of the Oregon Heritage Commission as of this last month, and this is my first official public presentation in that role. I'm also a Grand Ronde tribal member and have been involved in Oregon City projects for a few years now, and currently the tribal historian for Grand Ronde. So I have a lot of investment in this community, and I found that the community spirit here is perhaps one of the best in the valley, that whenever we have an event, whenever I've been involved in an event with the tribe or with heritage organizations, that people always step up. And the good example of that was when the closure of the Arch Bridge happened. Something like 800 people showed up on a rainy evening to support that. And that's just amazing. Even people that are used to rain don't usually show up at those kind of events, and that still happened.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. And then, so we're recognizing Oregon City for the commission for the Main Street program, which is excellent, for the historic property survey, which I've seen pieces of. It's pretty vast, and it's an excellent project that I've never seen the like in Oregon. And for the Excellence Award that recently received, and for all your great work on heritage in Oregon City. And I think that this award will actually help you in the future, because with the closure of the Blue Heron site, there's an amazing opportunity to develop heritage tourism in Oregon City, far more than I see in any other community right now in the Valley. So I really look forward to see what happens, and I hope to be a part of that in some way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mary Lou's ready to present the certificate.
Come around there.
Congratulations.
Thank you
for all
very
your
much.
hard work.
Well, I appreciate this, and I think it's timely. We went through a period of time where some of our heritage organizations went through difficult times. We had closures of museums and so forth, but all that seems to be turning around. And this is a great time to be able to receive that, because we look forward, of course, to the development of what we call the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, where the former mills were located, as something that's going to be very important to us in telling the various heritage stories that we have. We anticipate almost all these groups will be involved in that process. So this is a great honor to us. On behalf of the City Commission of the City of Oregon City, I very gladly accept it. Thank you so much.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't walk away. I walked away with things before. However, they usually catch me. And I know I'm going to leave out. We just have so many of our heritage partners here. I want to recognize them. I see members of the National Park Service, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, Clackamas County Historical Society, Willamette Falls Heritage Area Coalition, Historic Review Board, Clackamas Heritage Partners, Tourism Development Council, I believe. Willamette, Sandy, help me. The other Willamette Falls. One Willamette River Coalition, excuse me. And I'm sure, that's just off the top of my head. And if anybody else is a part of a heritage group, could you just stand up and announce who you are, what group it is? I don't believe I got them all. I don't think I.
Heritage Coordinating Committee.
The Oregon City Heritage Coordinating Committee. And of course, Main Street Oregon City has done a lot of great work here too. And if there's anybody else here that's involved in a group, please let me know. Of course, the Planning Commission, they are part of it. Historic Review Board reviews many of these things, but the involvement of our planning department, we have another name. Okay, yes, the Oregon. Don't tell me. The Oregon California Trails Association, which has got a big event coming here this year. So I want to thank you one and all, because you've been part of this process, and you're probably the major reason that we've gotten this tremendous recognition. Speaking of the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, I believe we have people here from Walker Macy. Would you step forward, and you're going to make a presentation? Is that right?
Yeah. So,
evening,
yes, Mayor and Commissioners. It's with great excitement and pleasure that tonight I get to introduce Walker Macy, leader in landscape architecture, urban design, and planning that was selected to lead the Willamette Falls legacy project visioning and master plan process for the City of Oregon City and our partners. Walker Macy submitted an excellent proposal and gave an excellent presentation, and was the unanimous choice of a multi-jurisdictional, multi-stakeholder, and multi-interest group selection committee. The proposed contract that we're negotiating with them right now, we're anticipating to bring in front of the commission at our next meeting on June 19th for your consideration, review, and hopefully approval. Walker Macy emerged from the competitive process that drew talent from around the region and beyond, and bring a strong group of professionals that not only understand the unique nature of the project, they also share our passion for this special place. And so with that, I'll introduce Mike Zylis and Ken Peary from Walker Macy.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I'm Mike Zylis, principal of Walker Macy, and I can't tell you how excited we are to be here tonight. We were poised and focused on this project since we heard the news about Blue Heron and that the possibility of the site would be opened up, and to be sitting here this evening sharing our thoughts with you is just really exciting for us. I'm a principal of Walker Macy. I'm a landscape architect, and I've spent a majority of my career working on revitalization of industrial sites and development of public open space, and my job will be to lead the planning effort. And we brought some of our team members. We've got a big team, but we brought some of the key members. They'd like to introduce themselves.
I'm Ken Peary. I'm an urban planner with Walker Macy, and I'm the project manager. I'm personally most fulfilled when I'm working on complex projects, on urban redevelopment projects,
I think
on
you got a
natural
good
area
one here.
projects, and historic projects, and cultural projects. So it doesn't get better than this.
So we don't have to pay them. That's
Yes.
perfect.
That's great.
Yeah, that's how we're going to make this happen there.
Hi, I'm Matt Brown. I'm an urban planner and a developer. I specialize in urban redevelopment projects, and I've planned, permitted, financed, constructed projects, both the public and private sector, so I bring kind of a unique set of qualifications to the team, and my role is to make sure that your plan is realistic, it's implementable, and it attracts investment, both public and private.
That's important.
Ben Schoenberger from Winterbrook Planning. I'm a land use planner and specialize in getting complex projects through the land use regulatory process.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Wyoming. I'm a planner at Kogan Owens Kogan, and I'll be leading the public involvement portion of this process. Really excited about that.
Hi, I'm Kevin Johnson. I'm with GBD Architects in Portland. I'm a principal there, and we've worked with this team on several projects. A couple of local projects we worked on that'll bring some real relevance to here is the brewery blocks in Portland, as well as the Belmont Dairy rehabilitation there. So some good things to bring to the table. My role in this will be as architect to take the various ideas and put them into program, put them into sketch form for everyone to take a look at and work towards some solutions.
From the back row. Hi, Commissioners. I'm Lorelei Jensen with Echo Northwest. Echo Northwest is an economics consulting firm, but I work in the practice area that's focused on redevelopment, finance, and also economic development, and that will be my role on the project to provide some of the analysis that supports the viability of the project, as well as to help to articulate the role that redevelopment can play in a larger economic development strategy.
Okay, and so with that, what we'd like to do, if we could, is spend the next 20 minutes or so explaining a little bit about our team and some of our initial thoughts about the project. And just in general, we work on these kind of projects up and down the West Coast, and there is simply nothing like the Willamette Falls area. I mean, nothing. And it's probably the most powerful place in our state and in our region. And that comes from its cultural value as well as its physical location. And as you know, it's been a cultural icon for centuries and also the heart of our industrial heritage here in Oregon. As we open this site after 150 years of industrial development to the public, how we tell the story, how we interpret the place, and how we engage the public in the site is going to be paramount, and we're really looking forward to working with you on that. As Matt said, the other thing we're focused on is revitalization. We know that again, 150 years plus of mills and and employment and kind of the vital areas that were used, we're looking at how to redevelop those. What are we going to do with those to really bring new life and to add to all the vitality that you've engendered downtown? We're really excited to see downtown coming alive as well. So it's a tremendous opportunity. What I'd like to do is explain some of our experience. And again, Walker Macy, we're landscape architects. On the screen in front of you are just some of the brief projects we work up and down the West Coast. For example, in Sacramento, this kind of shows a project that is a waterfront redevelopment as well as bringing the city of West Sac and Sacramento to the river's edge. All those white blocks are new development blocks, and the whole idea of this project, much like yours, was to reconnect people to the waterfront after a century of industrialization and bring the city to the highest their highest value, which is the waterfront. Above, you can see the historical shot of what it once was many years ago and what it is today. Then in Bremerton, Washington, same idea, industrial site between a Navy shipyard and a ferry landing. The city had no presence on the waterfront, and bringing people to the water, and in this case, making iconic elements that draw people. In Corvallis, hopefully many of you have visited Corvallis. We were honored to work there on the redevelopment of the park, but the thing we're really excited about is how vital First Street became. And for those of you that knew this site, again, industrial site, First Street was forgotten. The city had turned its back on the waterfront, and with this project, we were able to catalyze redevelopment all the way along First Street, and now it's the most vital street in town. So it's the combination of waterfront, park, and revitalization, which is very important and will be very important to you. Then in a little bit closer to home, South Waterfront, if you look at the lower part of that shot, that was the steam plant that used to power much of Portland. Industrial site again, and we were able to revitalize it for a mixed use neighborhood. And then the brewery blocks, as Kevin mentioned, I'm sure some of you tasted Blitz beer. There was nothing quite like it. I'll leave it at that. But when Blitz Weinhardt pulled out of this site, if you remember those days, nobody could believe that anything would ever happen there. And GBD and their team came up with a strategy to not only redevelop, but to turn it into a catalyst project for the whole neighborhood. And then we also worked together in Belmont. The shot below is what the Southeast Belmont used to look like not too long ago, when I used to live up there, actually. And what we did together was come up with an economic strategy that helped to revitalize the entire neighborhood. In Foothills, just close by in Lake Oswego, together with Matt Brown and GBD, we worked on establishing a framework plan. Again, an old industrial site. This is where the steel plants were in Lake Oswego, and came up with a strategy to connect the city to the water. And then in Oregon City, the things we're really proud of, they're listed there. Many of our team worked on the Blue Heron site after its closure, looking at historic qualities and that sort of thing. And then we've been involved with a number of things, including the waterfront master plan down at the Cove. So we know your community and are quite excited to work with you.
So we'd like to describe our team management and project management approach. We know that a lot rides on the success of this project. The region is following it very carefully. As a team, we feel, just to bring up a metaphor, that this is like a rafting journey that we're all on together, with many obstacles and unforeseen challenges. But to us, it's a journey that, without question, despite the obstacles and challenges, it's really worth taking because of the amazing possibilities. We have this unique chance to create a special place. So think of us as a team as your river guides throughout this process. This core team that we've listed on the screen is highly experienced and skilled. We've built our reputation working with the best experts in a range of fields, and so we chose what we felt was the strongest team possible for you. And a lot of our team have direct experience working on this site and or in Oregon City. I wanted to specifically point out, beyond our core team, George Kramer, who is the historian who's been working on the site for several years. He's got 25 years of experience working on historic and cultural issues across the state, so we have great confidence in what he brings to the team. Other team members include KPFF and ESA and DKS, who all have worked extensively for you. But we also see you as integral members of our team. We will be seeing you on a regular basis. We have scheduled regular check-ins with the City Commission and the Planning Commission. In terms of the process that we've developed, I've already been working with Tony and Christina on developing a scope of work that you'll see next week as part of your council package. And we think we've got a really good, efficient scope of work set out so that we can accomplish what's a really aggressive schedule to get this to Planning Commission by April 2014. And Ben's going to talk more about that process. So just basically, I'm the project manager. I'll take personal responsibility for keeping an eye on our destination on this rafting trip, working with you and the team to avoid and deal some of those obstacles. To me, it's a lot of it rides on good communication, clear communication. So there'll be regular and close contact. We've already established that we'll have standing meetings every Tuesday with the core team, which is Tony and Christina, which I have to say I've really already enjoyed working with them, and I'm very much looking forward to the year ahead. So we've thought about our presentation, and we've organized it into 3 major categories. The first is establishing a vision. The next, we want to talk about our public engagement process and how we're going to build champions for this effort. And finally, Ben and Matt will talk about how we're going to implement the plan or help you work towards implementing the plan.
Right. So what we'd like to do is, if our technology holds together here, we've done quite a bit of thinking about the site and the place, and what we've done is put together a really brief video that talks about what we think is important. And there's nothing more important than the actual falls themselves, the power and the structure of the place. And it goes beyond just the waterfall. It is actually the entire river valley, the way the Willamette pours over, and the entire setting of the place. We were quite taken. We were out there in the winter and in the spring, and it's no one will believe that it's even here for most Oregonians. The history of it is incredible, and the environmental side of it is phenomenal. And to bring people to this location and have them witness it will be transformational. We also have great opportunities for restoration along the riverbank as you move towards Kenema and connect to this site to others. So we see the ability to connect along the riverfront and also bring people right out to the falls and witness them and really understand them in all the seasons. Then, as we look at the industrial heritage of the site, there simply is no other place like this in the western states or probably anywhere where we have layers and layers and layers of industry, and we've been on the tours crawling through places that I'm afraid to even think where I was. Well, frankly, I don't know where I was, but but it's an amazing place, and we have great abilities to think about this whole edge of the site and what we can do to bring people in contact with it, to build habitat potential, to deal with some of the flooding issues, and to interpret. People know the mill as that type of structure, but when you get underneath, it is amazing what else is under there, and how we salvage the ability to connect to things will be really key. There's also some environmental places a little bit further downstream. So when we think about this edge, it's primarily floodplain. We see the ability to bring people out to the edge on a variety of the platforms and other connections and connect them directly back to the grid of the city and back then to downtown. So there's a tremendous opportunity along that edge to bring people through. And if one could imagine what an open space might be here, this place really deserves a national award-winning park. I really believe, this is an incredible place. There's no other place in Oregon or in the States like this. And so we want to think about what that open space could be. Ed?
There's no doubt that this is an incredible opportunity to reconnect the public with the falls, with the riverfront, and to kind of continue the resurgence and the transformation of downtown Oregon City. So the site plays an incredibly important role in achieving those things. I think it's often difficult looking at the site today to look past the structures that are out there and try to understand what the potential is. But I think there are some initial clues that you could find. You could look at the location of Main Street as an organizing principle and connecting into the downtown. Look at the historic resources on the site. This is one of the old buildings, or the woolen mill foundations on the site, and incorporating those to help tie the site back to the past. We think first and foremost that you have to approach this as what we call land development project, right? This is about getting the land set up and ready for redevelopment, creating a framework so you know where the open space is. Importantly, successful urban neighborhoods enjoy strong connections to and from downtown. So using that as a basis for beginning to organize a site is important. Building your community infrastructure then around that. It will also help create that sense of place. The historic structures on the site, we've highlighted a few here that came out of George Kramer's report on the site. Again, those begin to give us clues about how you begin to organize and set up some of the development potential on the site itself. We'll look at what it takes to develop the site, what's the cost of the land, what's it take to develop infrastructure on the site, how do you create efficient development parcels to maintain flexibility, right, for different market conditions out into the future. All those elements will be part of what we look at as, during this process to give you ultimately a flexible and realistic and implementable plan. Ultimately, this is about reconnecting downtown, the public to the river, and eventually creating that world-class environment that the development can respond to on both sides. So there's really two key elements to this: the public realm of the riverfront and the private realm of the redevelopment back probably further along the bluff. Ultimately, it's, again, the synergistic connections then to downtown Oregon City and really building on, I think, a lot of the successful work that you've done to date in that area.
We see this as a complete community. It's not just a mill site, it's actually how it knits back into the entire Oregon City, and we're really excited to think about it in that way. We've already gotten some input from some of your community members about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies to the audience. This is going to be the other direction. Okay. All right. Hi. So the strength of the community engagement plan is going to be essential to the success of this project. And we have thought about this considerably and in depth. There is obviously a robust and diverse group of stakeholders. Not all of them are even nearly represented in this space. This is a regionally significant project, possibly statewide significant, Northwest regionally significant. And we really want to make sure that we're getting those voices into the vision for this plan. We want the people that have been in Oregon City for a long time, multi-generational families. We want the people who were here first. We're standing on land that was ceded, as I understand, from the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, and so we want that involvement. We would like to talk with the tribes and identify where they would like to be involved. We want to get the recent Oregonians, people who are newcomers, and the people who will come here later. How do they get to attach to this place? And so with that, how do you build, in this aggressive timeline, a robust, clear, transparent community engagement process that builds community champions? And so I'm going to do a little bit of doodling here to show you what we're going to do. That looks a little bit like a football play, and that's kind of what it is if our team go. So, to start, we have these 3 lines here, and I'll just read them off to you briefly. This top line represents our local, regional, and tribal stakeholders. The second line here represents the regulatory stakeholders, and so we're also thinking about this as the intergovernmental group. And then down here we have the City of Oregon City, Metro, State of Oregon, Clackamas County, and trustees. We're looking at the partners of the project. And I'm remiss that Planning Commission and City Commission should also be here because you're a part of this local group here. So community conversations is where we start. We're looking at a series of them starting pretty much right away, up to 40 through the process. And these are helping us to identify vision, helping us to refine concepts, and helping us to identify what that final vision is. During this time, we're also going to folks that are a little bit farther away, so specifically thinking perhaps the tribes, and identifying government-to-government relationship and inviting them and asking folks, how would you like to participate with us? Not just saying we have this space, but here we are. What's the right for you? And these processes keep going. And then we have 3 times throughout the series here community interactive events. And so these are open to the public, and there's also one in here for the region, so hosted by Metro. Down here, how does this tie into regulatory stakeholders? We have to hold summits for them as well. And I'm going to show you now how they connect. So the community conversations, these things
This vision, this information feeds into the intergovernmental group so that they're receiving the information, they hear what the public is saying. Where are the regulatory barriers? Where are the hurdles? What challenges are coming up from the vision that's being identified here by the public? That information gets codified, synthesized, and comes back to a public open house or an interactive community event. From here, refinement, moving on with the technical process, all of the information, and we, I hate to say it, but we lather, rinse, repeat, and we do that.
Yeah.
We do that 3 times through the process, so there's a rich wheel of information constantly going. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but we're also developing a brand and a logo, so there's a consistent look to the project. And we're actually doing that right now as we speak in preparation, hoping that you guys approve us and our scope of work. But we are already thinking about it, because people are already getting excited. What's this going to look like? When I get an email in my inbox, when I get a newsletter, when I hear about it on the radio, what am I going to vision, and what's that going to be? And so everyone starts to identify it, starts to own it, own that process. And so from here, not forgetting you guys, we have these check-in sessions so that information from these events are constantly streaming, and there's no surprises. We don't want surprises. We want to identify the hoops and the hurdles, the rapids. We want to get through this, and we want to get to the end and say we had a great trip, and that's our goal. This, we believe, is clear, transparent, robust. We think it'll build community champions because people will be involved throughout the process and help identify partnerships, which I think Matt's going to talk about.
Before you do that, show the crowd.
Oh, sorry. Play.
Why don't we sit instead of dancing around here? It might be a little better. So, there's probably no other opportunity like this on the West Coast, if not even, in the country. I mean, it's actually quite incredible. And I think because of that, this site really deserves a worthy response, right? It deserves good connections to the river. It deserves development that is worthy of the setting. It really deserves to build on, again, the work that you've been doing in downtown. But all that can't happen if we just think about only one party trying to pull this off. It's going to take partnerships to move this forward. I've had a lot of experience in managing, negotiating public-private partnerships on a multitude of complex projects, and we'll help you continue to build the partnerships that you currently have, as well as identify potential new partnerships to further this project. One of the questions that's come up is, how do we get from vision, right, to the details of actually implementing this plan and seeing action on the ground? And I think one of the ways that I like to convey is that we like to look at this as what we call a development intelligent plan. There's not really an issue on this site, even though it's very complex and there's a lot of things that you look at it. There's not an issue on the site that collectively our team hasn't tackled in other areas successfully. So, I think we've been through this before and we understand how to approach it. It's pretty simple. It's a straightforward process. First, we identify barriers to development. Next, we creatively come up with ideas to overcome those barriers. And third, we come up with strategic ways of presenting these ideas, forming the partnerships, getting projects funded and implemented. And I think part of that approach is to create really, at the end of the day, a very certain but flexible approach to development on the site that Ben can talk about how we get there in the master plan process.
I think that's right. This is gets back to that same question that we're asking ourselves, is how do we get from the broad vision for the site and the energy that's generated by the public process and all the things that people want to see happen down there to a specific approval, to something that's actionable that can actually occur on the site. And the shorter answer to that is very deliberately and comprehensively by looking at all the different pieces and having done it before in other situations. So we're going to address the land use regulations on the site. And what we need is approvals that enable the kind of place that you all want to see. And the regulations that are now in place don't actually let us do that. What we've got is a set of zoning rules and regulations in place that promote industrial development and require industrial development. And what we need to do is modify that through a zone change process. And that's why we'll be coming back to you a little less than a year from now to get approval for a zone change and comprehensive plan map amendment to a more suitable zone that allows a wider range of uses. But the core focus, I think, of all this effort is going to be through a master plan, and your master planning chapter 1765. So a master plan, I think it's useful to think of not as a specific, the building will go here, it will be offices or it will be residential. It's more useful to envision it as a box. So it's a framework, and into this box, a number of different development ideas can be placed. And we're not all knowing that we can say for certain what's going to happen and what kind of things will go into that box, but it needs to have the flexibility to allow a lot of different options while still doing things like defining the open space patterns or choosing where street networks are going to go. And those kind of things give enough certainty to future investment that they're going to come to the site and want to do things that also fits with the vision that the public has set out. So it's a 20-year look. Your master plan chapter has a general development plan and a detailed development plan. We're going to be doing the first half of that. So it's sort of the 20-year look ahead at the site under the code requirements. And we're going to do this on a really aggressive schedule. So we talked about that a little bit. We're obligated to get to the Planning Commission on April 24th, 2014, in order for Tony and Christina to have any time at all to actually look at the application that we prepare. That means that we're turning it in January. So what seems like a year project is actually compressed into more like a 9-month project. So we're going to get there. We're going to get you a product that will help us meet that date. And then that's the Planning Commission is the master plan element, and then we meet with you shortly thereafter for the zone change element. So just to emphasize the main point here is that the master plan addresses the big issues of development and open space, but without tying a landowner's hands to a specific outcome. That's really important for us to think about, is that we're going to incorporate all the big ideas of the visioning process and shape them into a set of rules. And we'll identify possible impacts from the development. We've got some real sticky riddles to work out, things with public infrastructure, with environmental considerations, with traffic and transportation access to the site, which is kind of hemmed in on 3 sides, essentially. So we've got a lot of things to figure out and work out, but like Matt said, we've done a lot of this activity with similarly constrained sites in other places. So we think we have the right team to be able to do it. We're going to have a balance of flexibility and specificity. We're going to have a balance of a big vision for the site with some hard-headed pragmatism that means it's something that's really going to happen. And it's complex. There's a lot of moving parts. But our goal is approval of a plan that's flexible, that's visionary, that's pragmatic, and that gets the city to where it wants to be, which is redevelopment and opening up of the site.
Thank you.
So,
next. So in conclusion, we're very excited to be invited to work on the project. To us and to me personally, this is a chance of a lifetime. There's simply no other place like this that I've ever been. And we promise all of our energy, enthusiasm, intelligence, and experience to get the job done. So with that, we'd like to open it up for questions.
Thank you. Anybody with questions? I'd like to give a little bit of a history, if I might. During the tenure of Alice Norris as mayor, this was 9 years ago, we did our comprehensive plan, and there was awareness at that time that the then current use of the site may not stay. We all hoped it would, but that recognition was there, and in the comprehensive plan, in fact, we specified should the current use disappear, it would go through a master planning process. And I think I've heard comments concerned, well, what if somebody buys the site? Well, that can happen, but the master planning process goes ahead in any case. The zone changes occur in any case. Any developer that comes in is going to be working as a partner with the public entities. I think we only heard maybe 2 or 3 days before the mill's closure that it was closing. We were all caught off guard, and one of the first things I did was go to speak to Jim Desmond at Metro, and Metro immediately saw the tremendous opportunities that existed there, and we did too. And Metro very early on became a Metro Regional Government became early on a very active partner in the effort, a formal partner in the effort. And I notice our councilor, Metro Council, is behind there, but we really value the effort that's gone in, and the Clackamas County has come in as a formal partner as well. But we've been working with the the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde throughout all this process as well. Portland General Electric is becoming a very important partner, and I mentioned the Main Street program, that we recognize that the Chamber of Commerce and all the business entities that operate here look at this as a tremendous opportunity. When Tony indicated to us that it was unanimous, I heard it was actually a unanimous vote. We had, a total of 14 people actually replied to our request for proposals. Is that right?
That's correct.
And a lot of them, I think most of them were very good. But you rose to the top on everybody's list. And that says a great deal about your proposal, but I'm sure it says a lot to do about the team that you pulled together. We're all excited about this. I am extremely pleased that it'll come before us before I step down as mayor at the end of next year. So that makes me very, very happy.
That's good.
But
That's good.
The point I guess I was trying to make is a visioning process started some 10 years ago with no notion of how that vision would develop, and it put us in a very strong position. To those that don't know, the reason Blue Heron closed was because China was importing a great deal of newsprint from the United States, and drove the price of newsprint out through the ceiling, and they simply couldn't compete. It wasn't a case that they didn't have a functional operation there. That they did, but the economy changed dramatically, not only due to the recession, but also due to that fact. Anyway, we're looking forward for this great opportunity. When we're looking at the various uses that have occurred there, I think most of them we had some notion of, but the wool mills that were there, they went down in the Depression. Mm-hmm. But about 10 years before then, the wool mills here employed 500 people. I mean, this was an employment site for thousands. I think when I came in, Smurfit had about 300 employees. I think it was our number one private employee, and I think it ended up with 175. The point is, the potential is there to have the levels of employment that we've seen in the past, but also to have the kinds of public access that we're all anxious to see happen. Mm-hmm. And I just invite everybody that has any interest to be involved in this process. It's going to be a great public process, and I think every one of us are extremely excited about it. Thank you, and I think we're making a good choice in our selection.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Commissioner Smith.
I guess we have a list. I don't know that.
I don't know if we do or not.
Yep. I just wanted to make a couple comments, and it's great to see on this night that we get this award as well. I think it's great to see all these partners in this room. That I think each partner, in their own right, it's on. Sorry. I have been, a part of a lot of the heritage groups in Oregon City, or have been to meetings for the past 15 years, and most of the people in this room can say the same. Oregon City has had so many ups and downs in terms of our heritage sites and development, etc. Never in my lifetime have we been this close. And I think every time we have a meeting, it just hits me. And tonight is one of those meetings. It's so powerful, and it's so exciting. It's one of the reasons I wanted to stay on the commission. it's so huge. It's for someone. I've lived in Oregon City my whole life. This is a moment we've talked about for decades, and I've seen us, do some amazing things in this city. This is the opportunity for us to go where we all want to go, and we have to do it right. We're going to do it right, and we're all going to work together, and it's going to happen. I really believe that. I think we all in this room believe that, and I'm so excited to be a part of it, and I'm so excited that all these partners are a part of it as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, get back there. How did I get off the floor?
No, you're right. On the agenda.
Okay. There's my list. Mr. Roth.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the proposal, and in reading it this afternoon on my front porch, I just kind of sat there and dreamed with the whole thing. It's just
That's great.
Really,
That's great.
really fun to go through. I do have a question about the public engagement process. She mentioned up to 40 Ellen did, up to 40 community conversations, and I was wondering if you could expound on that a little bit, at how that's going to be carried out, and exactly where, what groups you're going to go to and that kind of thing.
So we're compiling now a master stakeholder list to get these groups identified, and we're going to organize them. We're going to maybe alphabetically. No, with community values and the core values that Oregon City has already identified, sort of to associate most strongly with where they fit, sort of in those categories. Mm-hmm. And then we're preparing what we're calling community conversation kits. And so with that, we'll have project information about the falls, the project, the process, and then a list of questions that we have yet to develop to make sure that we're identifying all of the pieces for their vision based on the value, and then the other values as well for what they'd like to see occur in the process. And so the consulting team is going to do a portion of them, but we're also dividing the labor, because running 40 community conversations while we're also planning for open houses and intergovernmental summits is quite a body of work. And so there will be people from, like Christina and City of Oregon City will also go out to these different groups and perform these community conversations. And they're also referred to as speakers bureau sometimes, but we call them conversations. We really want to hear back. We don't want to just talk to people. We want to listen. And so we'll be cultivating that. And the conversations and the questions will shift as we continue them through the process. At the beginning, really framing up that vision. What do you want? What do you dream? What do you want to see here? When do you want to see it by? And then kind of going through the concepts as the technical information is done by the architect, landscape architect, engineering, and we have more information that we can kind of start to match that vision with viability, and then say, what do you think about these concepts, and kind of keep going forward.
Okay, I guess I need to clarify a question a little bit. I'm trying to figure out which groups you're going to go to. Where are you going to go to neighborhoods? Are you going to go, which?
I wish I had my scope in front of me.
Yes,
it's bigger than I have. So, do you have it, Ken?
I did, yeah.
Yes.
The manager?
What's he, the project manager?
Project
manager. He's earning his no money.
His no money.
Yeah. He's having a great time though doing it.
All right. So I don't have specific names because we're working on compiling that list, but I have local and regional business organizations, local and regional neighborhood advisory and civic organizations, former Blue Heron employees, local and regional environmental groups, local and regional historic advocacy organizations, senior community members, universal advocacy community members, local and regional non-English as first language community members, youth community members through the area schools, and on the Blue Heron employees, we're working to coordinate with city staff on an oral history methodology as well, so that there's a two birds with one stone thing kind of going on, so that you have some stuff.
Very nice.
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
Great question.
No wonder they went up to everybody's top in the list. Any other questions, Commissioner Munn?
I think this is wonderful. I really appreciate the weekly check-ins with Tony and Christine. And are you guys going to do weekly or check-ins with our partners also? Are you going to shoot off a quick
Yes.
email?
No,
Okay.
we're still maintaining the partnership that we've had, and we're still
Okay.
working with that model.
All right, that was just one of my questions, but thank you. And then the water itself, you didn't, is there anything that you're going to do with the water itself? I know that there's been interest in doing kayaking or something down in that area to get people to the falls from the water.
Yes, the water. Obviously, the water is a key element of the whole project, so that'll be part of the analysis and also the planning.
Okay.
And
there was one gentleman that came before us with a plan, and
I'm
I
sure.
wanted to make sure he got tied into you guys.
Guaranteed.
Okay.
No, there's been some really great thinking happening already in the community, and we have been contacted by a number of folks.
Yeah.
But no, actually, we went on a tour with the Metro folks the other day up into the fall area and stuff, and there's nothing like being right there.
Right.
It's great to see it from
Right.
above, but to
Right.
be right there, it's just incredible. So that'll be part of it.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
That was my only question.
There's a question that I was asked, and I had wondered about it myself. Blue Heron probably had some senior water rights associated with their operation. Do you know if those water rights are attached to the property or not?
That's what we have to look into.
Okay.
There are all kinds of rights and easements and you name it, so we have to sort that out. Yep.
Great. Thank you. We're very excited.
Great.
Thank you very much. Okay, just a minute. Carol Pauley.
Last but not least.
That's it.
I am excited to see you all excited about the project. I feel like you get the project. You understand the wonderful opportunity it is. And I think that you get Oregon City too. I love seeing the green space and dealing with the floodplain in that way and really having, public access and engagement with the falls and continuing on our Main Street that was chopped up and lost. So really restoring that and giving it back to the community, and I'm excited.
Great.
Thank
We
you.
are too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's wonderful.
So let's get to work.
All right.
I think I'd just like to thank Mike and Ken and for the other team members for coming out tonight. I think it was an important step to start this process. As I said earlier, we will be bringing back the contract in 2 weeks. And I'd also like to thank our partners, and the mayor did that earlier today, but they have been an integral part to getting us to to where we're at right now, and they continue to be very strong partners and advocates for this project. And so I do want to thank Metro, Clackamas County, the state of Oregon, Portland General Electric. It's been a team partnership effort that's gotten us to here, and that will continue and hopefully get us through this process as well.
Great. Thank you.
I have one more question, and I hope I'm not pushing, but do we have a date yet for our first public meeting?
We will soon.
Very quietly.
Yeah, no.
This doesn't count?
Yeah, right. Thank you. You hear that? No, but it'll be widely advertised, and we'll make sure that people understand once we start when the next meeting is. That's
Okay,
really
good.
important, and the next meeting after that. So we'll put a whole calendar together that'll lay it all out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
And I
Look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah.
mistakenly left off the bankruptcy trustee, bringing into this partnership.
Oh, yes. Goodness, yes.
I think it's important to note because the bankruptcy trustee does not represent us, and but the trustee has worked as a tremendous partner, also aware of all the potential at the site and the greater value that will be derived out of this process. But indeed, good recognition. I'm glad you get that.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great to meet your team.
And speaking of partners, I believe we have our Portland State partners here. Mr. Purdy, are you going to introduce them, or are they just going to come up on their own?
We're getting so used to them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Live It Up downtown presentation by our partners from Portland State University. A nice student project. And we're going back on our viewing board, I think.
Live it up.
Yes.
That's more what the water's supposed to look like.
There you go.
Yeah.
Only 6 months.
Not everyone. Where's the blue? Well, John caught that. The other picture. Blue water.
And open up a few fire hydrants.
We want it to be blue water.
All right. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for having us.
Introduce yourselves as you speak.
My name is Ryan Farncombe, and I'm a graduate student along with 5 others here at Portland State University. We're finishing up our degree in about 5, 6, 7 days in the Master of Urban and Regional Planning program. So this is Jenny Koch and Ian Matthews, Linda Menard, Kate Drennan, and Derek Abe. That constitute our full team. We've been working with Lloyd Purdy at Main Street, Oregon City for about 5 months now on a project called Live It Up Downtown. And what we've been looking at, actually spoke to, I think, most of you in your capacities as urban renewal commissioners several weeks ago about some of the initial opportunities and constraints we've found with this project. But we've been working on what we're calling a framework for reintroducing housing into downtown Oregon City, which we have been looking at from 5th to 15th Streets. And real briefly, our process has been we've talked with a lot of folks in town, property owners, business owners, a lot of developers, architects, development professionals, people at Metro. We've also done a fair amount of case study research in other cities around the Pacific Northwest with similar historic downtowns to see what they've done towards this goal of reintroducing housing into their downtowns. I also want to note that the reason you want housing or people living in your downtown is to make it a vibrant and cool place to be. Right now, downtown kind of closes up about 5 p.m. Because there really aren't too many people living there. Mr. Dan Fowler, I think, owns 100% of the housing in downtown Oregon City. I think there's only 5 units right now. But having residents live there in downtown provides a captive audience for businesses, for one, and also contributes to what we call an 18-hour downtown, where there's activity and people through much of the day. So what we'd like to go through is a few of our recommendations. We're still finalizing these along with our final report in the next few days. I should also mention that 2 of our professors from our program, Ethan Seltzer and Gil Kelly, are here, so your reaction to these recommendations determines our grade.
I see he's got his pin out.
So there's kind of 2 tracks with our this project. We've looked at, first, what does it take for a developer to be interested in doing something in downtown Oregon City, whether it's what we call adaptive reuse, reconfiguring an existing building, or building something new. Then the other end of that is livability. What would it take to make downtown Oregon City a place that people want to live? So in that vein, we've organized our recommendations into 5 sort of themes, and one of those is public-private partnerships. And one strategy we've looked at that's been successful elsewhere is development of a developer's toolkit, is what we're calling it. We heard through a lot of our interviews and research that developers were not clear on the rules in downtown. And so, for instance, Portland's Bureau of Development Services has a toolkit that explains and lays out the processes and what needs to happen to get development approved. And that both clarifies the rules and also signals a willingness to work with developers on projects. We think that's something that the city could implement fairly quickly, actually. Another thing we looked at was a rail quiet zone. We've heard a lot about train noise in downtown Oregon City, and it's potentially an impediment to development of all kinds. And we recognize, of course, there's a cost to remedying that, but we did hear that fairly consistently that was an issue. Next, we looked at a few financial tools that could be employed from the public side to encourage residential development. We recognize that public investment in any private project is always it has to be done carefully. But we think that with the right investment, you could encourage development that would increase taxable value, and so the city would see a return on that investment. So one thing we looked at was the vertical housing tax credit program. I think Lloyd may have been here talking to you about it before, but that has been successfully employed in several cities around Oregon to encourage residential development. It doesn't reduce the costs of development, but it does defray some property taxes. And in an unproven market like downtown Oregon City, there's there's nobody living there, it's hard to judge what kind of rents someone could get for housing. Every little bit of financial help can push a project towards realization. Another is system development charge buy-downs. We were suggesting that perhaps the Urban Renewal Commission could purchase some portion of the system development charges for the pioneering development in downtown Oregon City to offset the costs, again, of development. This was used successfully in Hillsborough at the 4th and Main project, which was done by Tokla Properties. Parking. We heard a lot about parking during this project. And parking there's two tracks with this. One, for people to live in downtown, there has to be the right mix of amenities, grocery store, restaurants, things like that. If parking is a problem, it's going to be difficult to attract the kind of amenities that you want. Second, it's going to be difficult to provide surface parking for any new development in downtown because it's constrained by the bluff and by the water. So efficient management of the existing parking supply, we think, is key to realizing residential development. And one suggestion we have, and this is really more for Lloyd than anything, is outreach to business owners about employee parking in downtown. There's plenty of unused parking in the north end. If employees could be encouraged to park, that would free up spaces right there. So that's one strategy we have. Livability. This is 7th Street? 8th Street? 8th Street. 8th Street. Again, with recruiting a diverse mix of businesses downtown is key, but another important factor in livability is placemaking. And we think more programming and events like farmers markets, things like that, downtown will make it more of a place. And the same things that bring people downtown are the same things that make people want to live in a place. And finally, with respect to urban design, we think that the current Urban Renewal Commission program that contributes money towards facade improvements in downtown is very important. It gives a cohesive feel to Main Street. It helps preserve the historic character of Main Street, which we heard is one of the most important things during this process. And one other suggestion we have is with regards to McLaughlin Boulevard. We think that downtown is really cut off from the waterfront. All of the businesses on Main Street turn their back to McLaughlin, very little fronts McLaughlin. And we really think that there's an opportunity to leverage the Blue Heron project to maybe redefine McLaughlin Boulevard and its function. Right now it's a regional transportation facility. It's not a great place to walk around or be. So maybe there's an opportunity to reconnect downtown to the waterfront, not just at Blue Heron, but also along the length of Main Street. And that presents a huge opportunity as far as livability is concerned, and an opportunity, yeah, it's huge. So those are some of the strategies, just a few of them. We've actually got several more. We're finalizing them right now. And we'll have our final report ready next week, and then we'll definitely make sure that you all see it. But
great.
Thank you for your time.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I love it. A+++.
So I don't know if you have any questions or comments or anything I can answer.
Yeah, we got to really sell that because we have parking spaces on McLaughlin that are never used.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Did you look at all at numbers of housing units that would be able to be accommodated downtown, or?
We didn't get too much into that. We think that any new residential development would probably be fairly small because of, one, the small parcel size in downtown, and also the scale of Main Street. It's not going to be a 200-unit apartment complex that goes in. It's going to be a few units here and there. But we didn't get into exactly how many units could be accommodated in downtown.
Okay. Either new or in existing buildings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just tell me it's not English ivy that's in the parking strips.
No, definitely not.
Okay, well, thank you.
And the bridge looks horrible.
It's being worked
And I'm
on.
concerned about the dog in the parking strip, too.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great picture to end on. I like it. I
That's
think
great.
that we could get some businesses facing 99. That'd be great. And to
And
get
railroad.
the traffic slowed down a little bit, that'd be, yes, and railroad. So I think this is great.
So, did you do any background work in how this has affected other communities when residential's brought in as terms of like safety, increasing safety, maybe downtown, or just in general how it would affect?
Well, I mean, bringing residents in will definitely add to the eyes on the street factor. You'll have people monitoring, Main Street, not deliberately, but they'll be there. And I think we didn't do any explicit research on the effects on public safety by bringing people in. I mean, I think we assume that having residents will only increase safety.
We haven't heard otherwise, at least.
I want to disagree with you on 5:30. What happens on
Yeah.
Main Street? We got a lot of bars there.
What are you thinking? Come on now.
So
I was going to say the same thing. If you've ever been downtown Oregon City at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's
It can be
very
kinda
active.
lively,
Well, it'd be great to have those people walk home instead of
Right.
Yes. I think our new police chief would appreciate that.
I guess my question is a little bit on the same. You brought up the issue with the railroad in terms of a noise issue, but the bar crowd would also, I think, be an issue for noise, etc., beyond 10 o'clock. And so I wonder if that came up at all, and what the discussion has been at all about that.
We did hear that on the survey.
Okay.
We got about 300 responses on our online survey, and that was a concern that was brought up. Not the majority of people, but maybe
Right.
I think 10 to 15 of the respondents noted that was a concern that they had. We don't have any specific recommendations around that.
Yeah, I think it's something to think about, because I haven't even really thought about it until now, and most of us wouldn't think about it because it hasn't been an issue
Right,
so much.
right.
I have a lot of colleagues that live in Portland, and they talk about that issue a lot.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So I think it's an important one to think about.
Absolutely. Good to know. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
so much.
Yay! And they get A+, 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 right? They did a great job.
Make us the bad guy.
They did a great job. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for letting us descend on your community.
Oh, we really appreciate it.
we look for additional partnerships in the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
that.
Well, now is the time
Sam
for
and I right here.
citizen comments for things that are not on the agenda, items that you want to address. So have three minutes to come up here, introduce yourselves, and talk about the topics. And I was facetious, Mr. Guile. We will have time for citizen comments. So come on up.
Thank you. What a great night. Tom Guile, Oregon City resident.
You're not going to mess it up for us, are you?
No. Actually, I had no idea all those presentations were going to take place tonight when I came to suggest something. This is my 10-year anniversary. Oh, before I start, Rocky, you were talking about all the bars on Broadway, but there's a lot of other spirits wandering around downtown.
There you go.
Much later at night.
1 in the morning, yes.
Actually, I was going to say, I'm pleased to say it's my 10th anniversary of announcing the Grand Floral Parade for the Rose Festival this weekend.
Yeah.
And they've moved me on up to Broadway now, so I'm at my
Nice.
positions at Pioneer Square, and I invite anybody to come on down. I was looking at our huge script. It's gigantic. And actually, I see the Oregon City Pioneer Marching Band's number 26 in the parade.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's always a proud moment when they come by. And also, it's been a proud moment off and on when Dr. John McLaughlin shows up. And will he be around this weekend?
I don't think so. Actually, I'm attending the graduation of my granddaughter in Denver.
Oh, priorities.
So unless he can occupy a different spirit, he probably won't be there.
It's possible.
It's possible, yes.
Well, my main thought was, again, all based on what we've heard tonight about rediscovering the blue heron and everything else that's going on. We've talked recently about Illuminate Downtown. Illuminate Downtown Oregon City. You know, they give us various trivias, and one of the trivias here, two famous Portlanders, Asia Lovejoy and Francis Pettigrove, tossed a coin to name Portland. What would the Portland Rose Festival be called if Lovejoy had won the coin toss? And obviously it would be the Boston Rose Festival. And Rocky has been at the announcer's tower with me in the past, and we've kind of focused in more on not the Portland so much as the Oregon City trivia, like the first electric power and et cetera, et cetera. But I was thinking that if this is the time after the parade ends that they start planning the next one. And they have a living history celebration area. And I thought, wouldn't it be great, because they've had everyone from the first person who ever started the parade, the first roses, all the various personalities that have contributed in Portland. And I thought, wouldn't it be great, since they even have that as one of the trivia, to have some segment of that parade about Oregon City, to promote us and saying, especially when we're going to, the living history, excuse me, not living history, but the end of the Oregon Trails is reopening, and there's so much excitement going on now. It would be great if Oregon City could offer to the Rose Festival, we'll do an enactment of the flipping the coin as we go down the parade or something, or have Dr. John McLaughlin along for the ride or something. A lot of the vehicles that they bring in, there wasn't vehicles in the 1800s, but they have old cars. But we could do something from Oregon City that would really be living history to tell people, come to Oregon City, the end of the Oregon Trail, and learn even more about Oregon history. So I wanted to put that kind of in your minds. Today, they handed us out these little Rose Festival Portland, Oregon pins. It kind of blinks at you. And I was going to come and suggest you make a pin, and then all of a sudden I see these out front, and I thought, wouldn't it be great next year, since I think that's the time that we have the elevator illuminated, wouldn't it be great to have our own little pin that kind of lights up, that we could hand out to people or something? Have one of the students at Oregon City, the art students, create something, but a pin like this that has a little light that goes up, and we can talk about, come see something you've not seen in the Portland area. It's in Oregon City, so the bridge, the history tour. But again, this was more of a, gotta be so great and so proud to announce that in the parade, to see a whole contingent from Oregon City talking about the history. It's the largest civic celebration in our local area, and to bring those people, why travel elsewhere? Come to Oregon City and find everything you need for history.
Great. Good idea, Tom.
I wanted to point out that actually, not this year so much, but in years past, Oregon City has had a huge connection with the Rose Festival in the last few years, doing the History and Roses tour, where they did focus a lot on some of our historic sites. In recent memory, also the 100th anniversary of the Rose,
the trolley.
The trolley led the parade and the Starlight Parade, because connecting that history with Oregon City and PGE's history with Oregon City. But I think that's a great idea, and I think those connections are there, and it'd be nice to bring those back, especially when moving forward with some of these other projects that are happening. I think it's a great idea.
Great promotion, and I know the people who put on the parade, but I know that just like with the Rose Bowl the parade or any other activity that goes on, they start planning the day after the parade's over. They do a quick rundown, how did it go, and they start saying, well, what can we do better next year?
Are you saving us seats if we'd like to show up on Saturday
Well, right
morning?
there at Pioneer Square facing Nordstrom's, and
I just might show up.
I have to be there at 6:30 in the morning.
I won't
so.
that's not too bad. That's not too
Our
bad.
city manager showed up one time, and you.
I've been down there before earlier than that's okay.
But anyway, just a thought, and I thought how appropriate tonight when all this other stuff was happening.
very cool.
that suggesting this.
Thank you
Have
very
a good
much.
evening.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. With that, we're going to go ahead to the adoption of the agenda. Oh, excuse me, William Gifford. It's not green.
Not till it lights.
Not until it starts, I guess.
Oh.
Right.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, my name
Oh,
is
now
William-
you're green. Your time's running out.
Yeah, he's already used up 10 seconds.
It'll take less than that. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City, and I'll be brief because it's been a long night already. I just had to relate a very positive experience that I had today. Well, positive and negative. The negative was that the power went out up in the Hillendale neighborhood for 8 hours, from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. glad that's over. But in order for me to get my work done, I went down to the library. What a delightful experience. Go in there, everybody's so helpful, log on, use the internet, use the computers, use all the resources and that. And I really hope people really take advantage of what a wonderful institution that we have in this city and how well it's run and how well it's organized. And I'm just really proud of our library.
Great.
I see somebody grinning in the back corner over there.
What'd that cost?
I was speaking about, of course, Maureen Cole, our library director, who's done a tremendous job. I remember when we were doing the interviewing for a library director, and there were various citizens there and so forth. I was on the commission at the time, and everybody was coming up to me and says, "I hope you select Maureen Cole," and we have the great wisdom to do so.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with that, we're going to the adoption of the agenda. Anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda? Hearing none.
No.
Do you want to accept?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have, I think, unanimous decision to go ahead and accept the agenda. We'll go on to our public hearing, starting with our Oregon System Transportation System Plan. Oregon City Transportation System Plan update.
Good. You know the process.
And that'll, of course, be, I think, John Lewis.
we keep switching on you, Mayor. Tony's gonna-
Two things.
It won't be John Lewis?
We're basically going to continue the public hearing to your work session on June 11th. So that's
So eventually we will hear about it, won't we?
Again.
So we did recommend that you take public testimony from anybody tonight who's here who wishes to testify on this matter, and then we continued it to the June 19th, 2013 meeting. We are also going to, at our last meeting, you had some requests for information about system development charges, the state facility and their mobility standards, as well as some examples of transportation system development charges of other jurisdictions and the impact of any type of increase would have on residential or commercial, and put together some examples of that. And so we've put that together. We're still working on some of the state mobility standards and how we're going to address those, which is why we are requesting the continuance tonight, and we thought it'd be appropriate to bring that to you in a work session to walk through that. But we are still requesting that you do continue this hearing to June 19th.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead then and open the public hearing for any comments that any citizens might have that have been looking at the transportation system plan.
This one, Mayor.
We have Christy Byer. You want to come forward?
My name is Christy Byer. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I'm a Clackamas County resident. I live on Holly Lane, and I wanted to address some safety issues with the street. The Oregon City Transportation Plan, I'm not completely addressing that, but it brought to light that Holly Lane has been put into that plan. I have provided my comments. Did those get distributed to everybody or not?
There was one that you distributed.
Okay. I assumed you'd make copies for all the commissioners.
That's generally not the procedure,
Okay. Okay.
But it will be on the record, though.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. I don't know if you're familiar with my street, but it is outside of the UGB, most of it. And there's a lot of proposed development on either side of it. Right now, there's some development going in called Crabtree Terrace on Maple Lane. There's been some proposed concept plans, Park Place concept plan up the hill, and Beaver Creek concept plan down the hill. There's been talk of extending Holly all the way up to Holcomb and all the way down to Henry C. And if you're not real familiar with Holly or you haven't driven it lately, it's a very hazardous road. It is a road that intersects with Donovan Road that has a middle school. There are children that walk to school, ride their bikes to school. Holly Lane is 20 feet wide. It has no shoulder. It has deep ditches. It's very windy and has a lot of hills in it. And it's clocked at, it's designated at 40 miles an hour, and it's been clocked. People have been clocked at 70 miles an hour. So it's a real safety issue for those of us that live there that have kids and pets and things. We've had a lot of animals that get run into. We've got people pulling in and out of their driveways that get hit. And it's very concerning to me that I'm seeing all this development, but no regard, at least from my viewpoint, with safety for both drivers as well as people that live there. I observed. I have 2 children in the Oregon City School District, and we go out to we don't have a curb, but we go out to the edge of the street and wait for the buses. The buses have had to start stopping for kids across, diagonalizing per se, so that they can prevent cars from passing them. Cars will pass them when their red lights are on and their stop lights out. I had to pull one of my kids back because the car sped past it when everything, the bus driver had even said, go ahead, and the car came around the blind turn.
Yeah,
and
it's true. They don't stop. I've seen that.
So I'm seeing all this pressure on my street, and I'm not seeing that my family's being protected, and it's very, very concerning to me. In fact, the Oregon City Public Schools, in a memo dated June 3rd from '92, it's a while ago, but even at that time, they declared Holly Lane, quote, hazardous for the health and safety of students. So I think the school is also aware that it is a problem. And I think one of the problems that's arising from the city viewpoint is that the street is designated as a minor arterial, which is kind of a big street like Sunnyside Road. So you have this little tiny 20-foot wide road that's, on paper, it looks like it should be able to accommodate the traffic that they're sending down it, but in reality, it really can't. And some safety things need to happen in order to make the road able to accommodate the traffic. But to do that, you need to add lanes, you need to take away people's homes. The homes are very, very close to the street on Holly. And so I don't know how that happens. The best thing I can think of is, people take Holly to avoid 213, which is failing. Dead stop traffic a lot. If there's an accident, it's stuck. You're stuck there. So the creation of potentially another north-south connection, which is what 213 is and what Holly Lane is, might help to put some of that traffic somewhere else, because the people that are taking Holly are trying to get to 205 or from 205. So let's find maybe another way to get them there, a safer way for everybody involved. And thank you. That's all. Thank you.
I would just mention that Sunnyside is not a minor arterial.
No.
It's a major one. In fact, it's a highway, isn't it?
It's a major arterial.
It's a major arterial, so it doesn't follow. But I have the same concerns that you do about Holly Lane.
And I know that Holly isn't the only city in Clackamas County and in the region that is having these pressures exerted on it, but it's our city. It's our area, and maybe, we can come up with some better solutions. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
And Christine Kaczynski.
I'm Christine Kaczynski. I live in unincorporated Clackamas County, and I'm here tonight also to represent the hamlet of Beaver Creek, and I ask for a couple more minutes, please. When my husband and I visit the beach, we often take our grandchildren who love playing in the sand. On a recent visit, our granddaughter was dipping her hand into the sand, and she said to me, "Grandma, look, I'm holding a whole bunch of sand in my hand." However, gradually, the sand slipped through her small fingers and soon was all gone. She tried again and again, but just couldn't keep the sand from slipping away. Now, a trip to the beach would not be complete for our grandchildren until they have built a sandcastle, complete with windows, doors, bridges, and moats. They design a roadway where their Hot Wheel cars travel up and around to the castle. As evening approaches, a light mist begins to fall. It's time to call it a day. The next morning, the children could hardly wait to get back to the beach. And when they did, they couldn't find their beautiful castle that just the day before had stood tall in the sand. They were sad to see their sandcastle had collapsed and was sitting in a pool of water. You see, the sand just couldn't support the weight of a light mist. What I have just described to you are unstable soil conditions that exist not only on our beaches, but also in many of our challenged areas, such as Holly Lane and Park Place. Although Holly Lane soils are not composed of sand, they are composed of stream sediments, which are much like sand. They are unable to support much weight and have a high rate of failure. Water and rains undermine these sediments, and when saturated, they often turn to liquid, forcing hillsides to slide, taking trees and property along with it. In a 2007 news article about landslides, Scott Burns, professor of geology at PSU, made these statements about Holly Lane. And so, siting of those roads and utilities and maintaining them, that's going to be taken on a lot by the city and the county. That is a huge potential problem that is out there just because of the slopes they are crossing. In a worst-case scenario, Burns said the roads could just collapse altogether under the heavy rainfall. The landslides occur because the area is made up of layers of old stream sediment, some of which cave in, Burns said. So just like our sandcastle on the beach, the unstable soils of Holly Lane cannot hold weight or water. Since 2005, citizens from Holly Lane encouraged the city to strengthen its steep slope landslide regulations to better govern over the dangerous steep slopes and landslides that exist here. We brought forth concerns over state law, ORS 105.462, where a seller must disclose if their property for sale is located in a designated slide or other geologic hazard zone. During the Park Place hearings, I put into city records a copy of this state law, and I questioned the city and asked, are you willing to allow development to take place in a hazardous land area where you know disastrous landslides exist? And how do you plan to disclose this information to potential new home buyers? I never did receive an answer to this question. I'm giving you a handout from a newspaper article where a couple is suing over a sinking home. Disclosure laws are one of the arguments brought up in this recent lawsuit. The subject home is not within the city boundaries, but does lie in unincorporated county off Redland Road, a short distance from Holly Lane. This suit, along with others, will be a challenge to property disclosure laws. I'm also giving you a handout. It's a topographical view of just some of the huge landslides that exist on Holly Lane. The first red X marks the Newell Creek Apartments. The blue circle on Holly Lane marks a home only 260 feet away from a giant landslide. Next is a blue asterisk marking homes on Holly. Several were damaged. One home was totally destroyed in 1997. A last red asterisk marks Country Village, where several homes were moved and further development has been halted due to landslides. Note the short distance from Newell Creek Apartments to Holly Lane, only a few hundred feet apart as the crow flies. Newell Creek Apartments and Holly Lane share the same unstable soil and huge landslides. These are not developable areas. We have brought to your attention on several occasions since 2005 that the people of Holly Lane cannot obtain insurance to cover any losses due to landslides. We have given this city a plethora of reasons why this area should not be built in, but the city seems determined to use Holly as a heavily traveled corridor in this part of the city. Although City Code 17.44.120 under geologic hazards states that certain signed agreements may hold the city harmless for any damages, I wonder in this case, should the city decide to develop, widen, and or perform roadwork on Holly Lane that causes landslides to reactivate, it seems the city may be liable for all damages since they have been warned several times that citizens have no insurance coverage and that dangerous topography and landslides exist through the entirety of the street. Prior to any final approvals of keeping Holly Lane in your proposed upgrades to your TSP, the people of Holly Lane wish to challenge the City of Oregon City to number 1, contact OGAMI and review the new susceptibility maps. These were made available the end of May or now by the first part of June, showing areas susceptible to landslides and failure in the future. These must be studied prior to your final decisions. The maps will not officially be rolled out until early this fall. However, DOGAMI is open to meeting with cities and counties prior to the formal rollout later this year. Number 2, the people of Holly Lane challenge Oregon City for landslide studies. In 1993, Professor Scott Burns testified to the city, strongly stating that the city should never develop in Newell Creek. The city chose to develop half of the proposed apartments, and unfortunately, some have collapsed. Holly Lane challenges Oregon City to invite Scott Burns and his students to perform a soils and landslide study of Holly Lane, to include the top, bottom, and areas in between of the street. If the study determines the entire street or certain areas to be unsafe for any further development, then the city shall honor the outcomes of the studies by Scott Burns and his students and not allow further development or only limited development on this street where danger and safety are of the utmost concerns. The city shall uphold all requirements of State Goal 7 in protecting the citizens from all harm. In view of the above information, the unstable soils, the landslides, the strong comments from Professor Scott Burns on the dangers that exist on Holly Lane, the state disclosure laws, and the danger of future litigation, is the city really willing to take this horrible risk? Are you willing to once again not listen to Scott Burns when he tells you these lands should not be built in? I stated during the urban-rural reserves process that Holly Lane and the Redland Corridor should be set aside as a buffer area. This is the best use for this landslide corridor. Leave it alone. Protect Newell Creek Canyon, our streams, salmon, fish, and wildlife. Do not destroy what has been bestowed upon us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're
If
gonna-
you speak at the next public hearing, I will hold you to the 3 minutes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
With that, we'll continue the public hearing until time to be set. We'll be discussing this as a study session.
That's great.
Continue to the 19th, I think.
Continue to the 19th?
Correct.
Okay, we'll continue to the 19th.
And just the work session will be next Tuesday, June 11th.
Yes.
Here.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe you need a motion for the continuance?
You don't have an ordinance before you, so I'm not as concerned.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to our next item, and that is, as soon as I turn over my sheet, general business. Personal services agreement between the Oregon City and the Friends of Willamette Falls Media Center for a community media center for production and channel management. Do we have somebody to speak to this?
3 people.
Yes, Mayor.
3 people. Okay, I'll go up to there and have
I
our...
think Nancy's going to
Nancy's
kick it
going to
off.
start us off.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight you have before you a community, an agreement for a community media center for production and channel management with the Friends of Willamette Falls Media Center. Welcome this evening. To provide you with a little bit of background, on December 1st of 2011, the City of West Lynn withdrew from the Clackamas Cable Access Intergovernmental Agreement through Willamette Falls Media Center of Oregon City to support cable access to the community through WFMC. The city wanted to ensure that there was continuity of services and operations for Willamette Falls, so an amendment to the IGA was signed by both parties in June of 2012. This allowed time for Willamette Falls to obtain its nonprofit status and to transition to a new and independent entity instead of being an instrument of the city. They now have the name of Friends of Willamette Falls Media Center. The City of Oregon City continued to provide funding to them through June 30th of 2013, so approximately another month. During this transition year, the city evaluated its needed services and then developed a scope of work that we would need to move forward with in the future. So in March of this year, we solicited quotes for cable services and received one response, and that was from the Friends of Willamette Falls Media Center. The quote met the requirements of the scope of work and more, including these assets: the studio access for the public, cable broadcast of city meetings, reader board services, the government access channels, production services, maintenance of equipment, and consultation services. The contract provides for all these services, and in addition, the city is seeking a couple of additional services, which would be the videography of all city boards and committees, and the addition of cable broadcasting of the Citizen Involvement Council, the City Commission work sessions, if you so desire, and the Urban Renewal Commission as well. The amount of the contract is per year will come to approximately $73,500. It's a 2-year contract, and that's actually saving in the first year just under $19,000 from what was paid this previous year. So with that, I welcome any questions, and we have with us members of the board as well as our executive director of Willamette Falls Television, and invite your questions.
It looks like there's a fee for service in addition to some basic fees here. So if we asked them to do additional work, they would be paid for it beyond the service of the contract.
Well, yes, although we anticipated that there could be extra need for that and included that in the amount, the total amount of the PSA.
All right.
Did the board want to say anything?
Yeah, well, I'm going to invite them up if you don't have any other questions.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there any way to measure how much this is used by, I don't...
What cable service?
Yeah.
That would be a really good question for them.
Yeah.
So I'll invite you up.
My name's Dan Holliday, and I'm the immediate past chair of the Clackamas Cable Access Board and current chairman of the Friends of Willamette Falls Media Center Board. Behind me is Mark Koberstein, vice chair, Melly Ashford, our executive director. To answer your question, no, there really isn't a way to measure, because Comcast doesn't give us, doesn't release their metrics. The one way I can tell you is when you walk into the store and somebody goes, I know you, I saw you on TV, because that happened to me a billion times. And I said, really, when it was like 3 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. Thinking to myself, don't you have a life? But
you need to get a life. Yeah.
So, it really, especially the broadcast of city commission meetings and urban renewal commission meetings and the CIC, those are all just incredibly important to the community, and,
Yes.
and people don't realize how many people who don't want to get up and come down here and sit through a meeting or aren't able to still do gather the information that way.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say that, in this whole process, David has been great in helping us kind of shepherd the separation between where we were and where we are now. I had a really excellent time negotiating with Nancy and Wyatt, going through that process. Everybody was really friendly, and we worked through, we had some minor issues, but we got through those. And so we're really looking forward to this next 2 years of being able to having established this partnership, bringing new entities into the facility. We're working closely with Happy Valley at this point, and there's some other things that are going on. So I think we'll see, hopefully in the next 5 years or so, that we'll have encompassed most of the cities in Clackamas County and be able to have this be a region-wide kind of thing.
That's great.
And I thank you for putting the other meetings on. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
That's right.
I know our citizens will too.
And it's great to hear that we're saving money, and also, there's more services too. So that's great.
I was just a bit curious. I mean, I imagine your total revenues were affected by the withdrawal of Westland, and to some degree, we have an agreement here that is where you get less from Oregon City. I'm just kind of curious how that's impacted you.
Well, we have a great staff, and we're building a volunteer pool, and the new board that we have is stepping up and being very active. So we're working on getting a volunteer coordinator. We'll see. Good luck on that. So anybody want to come on in?
I think to further answer the question, we've cut back staff hours, and Melody has been working some time, that really is volunteer time versus actual paid time. The other side of that equation is that our other partner cities have had to step up and begin to be, so in this contract that you're seeing here, this is an equity contract across the board. So everybody's paying the same rates for the same number of meetings or whatever the case is. So Milwaukee's paying the same dollar for dollar that Oregon City would be paying for the services that they're getting, and they hadn't been in the past.
Yeah.
So part of the balance of that revenue was by making Wilsonville and Milwaukee and our other partner cities, about half of our revenue we based on population. So now that piece of the cable broadcast piece is based on the population of a city versus just kind of a, who knows
Feels good.
what it was done before. So that's part of the answer to the question.
Right. Thank you. You have some words you want to share too?
I'm good. I could never speak better than Mr. Holland.
Well, I want to say that it's been a long 3 years getting to this, and took a lot of teamwork and there was a lot of Oregon City spirit and common love for the city that actually got us through that hard separation with Westland. And I'm just glad we're here. I'm glad it's working, and I want to thank both of you too for your contribution to the community. So thanks.
Thank you so much.
I guess just to add, Melody's turned out to be a great resource for Public Works. She did the video for the water rate initiative, and we're working with her on the Malala Avenue, a short video for that. So, and I haven't seen a bill yet, so I'm pretty happy about that. And it's really they're really.
Why did you even bring that up?
Why did you bring that after 2 years?
Get all my video work done.
The other thing is we are providing a content-rich environment. When you just think about the projects in the last 2 months of your meetings, from lighting the elevator to what you saw tonight at the beginning, there's a lot of information there, and we're excited about it. We think our residents will be excited about it, and we're relying very heavily on our partners here to get that word out and help us get folks involved and be excited about their community, because there's no time like this, I think, ever in Oregon City's history. So, thanks.
Communication.
It's great.
So with that, do I hear a motion? For the
I move to approve the personal services agreement between City of Oregon City and Friends of Willamette Falls Media Center.
Second?
Well, then.
I second that.
Okay, so we see on the screen, moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Roth. The vote is unanimous. Very good.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And,
Thank you.
and I've been remiss. I promised Commissioner Mum a moment, and since somebody brought up the water rate presentations, maybe I ought to give that moment to you now out of order.
Oh, do I get it now?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about
All right.
that.
You guys are good.
You can
This
go.
is
We're
about
dismissed.
this is you're dismissed. This is about measure 3-423. You can hang out and listen about it though if you want.
I gotta go back to work.
I'm sure. Any excuse. All right. So Commissioner Roth and I were given the pleasure of co-chairing the measure 3-423, and I want to thank people that helped with this. So I have my little list here, and I was hoping for more people in the audience, but that's okay. Maybe you'll see it on TV. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the citizens of Oregon City for passing 3-423 by 160 votes. Closer than I thought, but you know, at least it's a win. And I know that when we first brought it up, we were going to put it together with a rate increase, and then we decided to put that into two measures, and then we decided to just put forth the one measure and not the rates. And I think that some people weren't happy with that, but I think it was the right thing to do. I think that it would have gone down if we'd had both. So committee members, I wanted to make sure I thanked them because they were huge. Bob LaSalle, he helped with the CIC and Farmers Market. Don Slack stepped up and he was our treasurer. Nick Dickerman was our next steps. He kept us on track and got letters to the editors. And Barb and Ray Rinkin, they're here. Thank you guys. They did a great job taking minutes and giving us all their comments and input and contacting the PTAs. I wanted to also thank Dan Holliday for supporting this. He was one of the initial chief petitioners on the 96 measure. I wanted to thank Commissioner Smith for coming up with the logo. It was great. Former Mayor John Williams for providing the maps for the canvassing of the neighborhoods. ASME, both local and regional. Oregon City Chamber, Oregon City Business Alliance came out in support, endorsing this, and Karen Morey did our Facebook page. Chuck Roth helped Commissioner Roth with a phone bank. Also have to thank John Lewis and his crew for coming out and walking the neighborhoods, and donations were contributed by Craig Danielson's local number 1159 Professional Firefighters Association of Clackamas County, B&B Leasing, Pam Bloom, PGE, Annette Matson, and all the others. I could just go on, but I won't. Commissioner Roth, did I leave anybody off? Or
I think John Anderson, yes.
Oh, yes, John Anderson. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
another key person.
yeah, it was a great group to work with. They were very dedicated and really followed through on everything they said they'd do.
So thank you for giving me my moment. I wish there were more people in the audience.
Sorry that I didn't get that out earlier. And
That's okay.
You were kicking me, and I just wasn't paying attention.
I will continue to kick you. No problem.
All right. With that, let's come back to my agenda here. We have before us the McLaughlin Improvements Agreement between the City of Oregon City and Oregon City Center LLC. And I presume I'm going to...
Thank you, Mayor.
I'd have messed it up. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to John.
That's what I was going to ask.
The Oregon City Center LLC received site plan design review approval for improvements to the Oregon City Shopping Center that included certain improvements to McLaughlin Boulevard and on their frontage there. The property currently has a driveway access on Southeast Frontage Road, which is also known as Firestone Alley off of 99E, which is part of the McLaughlin Boulevard right-of-way and is under the jurisdiction of the Oregon Department of Transportation. The property also has frontage where the city is in the pre-construction and design phase of the McLaughlin Boulevard Enhancement Phase 2 improvements. The owner and the city agree that incorporating improvements to the owner's access and southeast frontage roads into the city project design and construction would meet the needs of both the owner and the city based on the size and complexity of this project. In general, the city agrees to take over the responsibilities for the design and construction of those improvements along the frontage of the Oregon City Shopping Center, and the owner agrees to obtain the necessary ODOT access and construction permits, and to complete the work on their property in the parking lot to coordinate with the reconstruction of Firestone Alley and the new access way into their property. That's the general outline of the main parts of this agreement. With that, the owner has agreed to this agreement the way it is written. It's also been reviewed by our assistant attorney and myself, and we do recommend that the city commission approve this agreement. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Roth.
I'm just going to move to approve it.
Oh, I do have a question.
Okay.
Is Firestone Alley within cities right-of-way or states?
It's in the states right-of-way.
Yeah, okay, so it'll remain a state facility even though we approve the improvements, is that right?
Correct, yes. And Public Works is working with the Oregon Department of Transportation on the improvements to 99E, including that Firestone Alley. There are some discussions about jurisdictional transfer, but at this time it's still jurisdiction of the Oregon Department of Transportation.
Okay. So I presume anything we do there, of course, we're working with ODOT in any case, but anything there has to meet some state standards as well as some city standards.
And that's the main reason for taking over the design and the construction. They had an initial design. It didn't work with what we were doing with stormwater, like head improvements, and so it just made more sense to incorporate into our larger design and construction project, and then coordinate with them to make sure they're responsible for everything behind the sidewalk in terms of their driveway access, the new landscaping, the new design of the parking, which are included as exhibits A, B, and C in this agreement.
Okay, very good. Any other questions other than I will entertain a motion?
Okay, I'll move to approve 13-370 McLaughlin Boulevard Improvements Agreement between City of Oregon City and Oregon City Center, LLC.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Roth and then seconded by Commissioner Munn. Vote, please. Again, unanimous. Excellent. With that, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? I get a unanimous vote. And with that, I think we're going on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'm going to hand out our goals report. You might recall we've been doing the goals report in the past 2 years on a quarterly basis. And just to save you some time and some time of our staff as well, and at the request and suggestions of some of you, we're going to move that to a 6-month report. And I have the report tonight that I'm going to hand out. What's interesting about this report tonight is we have, of the almost 50 different projects, actually more than 50 different projects that are tied to your goals, 33 are on target, 4 are done and completed, and some of these are big ones like the water rate rollback. We were able to check that off. We have another one in the next 2 weeks that we think is going to get checked off that's almost as big as the rollback, and you know what that is, but I can't talk about it because it's executive
You can say what it is. Oh, well.
If I say, then I'll spoil the beans.
More, yeah.
And only one that's under revision and one that's on hold. So this is for you, for the commission, for the city, been an extremely productive 6 months. So here's the report, and take one and pass it on.
I'm confused. I mean, we still have an opportunity because we've got all of June to do all this stuff, right? For the 6 months.
You take it off.
We have to take a vacation or something.
Well, that's right. We haven't. It's the 6th month because it's it's the report we're completing for the 6 months, but we all know that because we don't do goal
Point is,
setting
we
until
will
the
be
end
able
of
to take
January.
some credit in the 6-month period for some of the additional things.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Hopefully you'll be as lenient on the back end as the front end. I also want to mention that Mayor Neely and I continue to meet periodically every other month or so with Commission Chair Ludlow, County Commission Chair Ludlow. We did meet with them about 2 weeks ago. I wanted to give the commission an update. You remember the $300,000 we pledged as a possible recommended amount that the city would contribute toward a parking solution that was in the core area within an eighth of a mile of the courthouse. The county has informed Mayor Neely and I that they prefer to develop a parking facility next to their community corrections facility, which is well outside the core. We don't think that'll fix the problem at the courthouse, which is the problem that we hear about from our business community. Nevertheless, it was still a good discussion, and what we got from that is that the county has asked us if we could consider some of the right-of-way that we own there on a bisecting dead-end street for part of their improvements. I think it's probably also an access point for them, frankly. We mentioned, I think, more than once about the idea of a multi-level parking structure because we really think that that's long-term the better thing. It doesn't pencil right now for the private sector because I think you can rent a space for about $120 a month. When that gets up to around $220, those numbers are going to look different, and eventually we'll have the densities and the values are there, I think, to warrant a multi-story parking from the private sector. That said, the county told us we don't have any money. And we sort of believed them because that was the same time they were trying to pass their budget and they were making a few cuts. So it's a tough time for them, and we did pledge cooperation with them on the plan review, but also acknowledging that we do have landscaping standards that we adhere to, and we think our community is worth the investment, and we hope that we expect them to adhere to those standards as well. So overall, good meeting, and we're going to continue those, and I appreciate that from Clackamas County. Also wanted to let you know that maintenance and repairs to county facilities in downtown Oregon City were one of the things that we had mentioned to them about 6 or 8 weeks ago. As Oregon City has continued making investments in its downtown renovation efforts, the more our buildings look better, the more some other buildings don't look quite so good. And we are making that contrast is not gone unnoticed with the county, and they have pledged, they sent me a document actually, and they're going to be doing some painting and some sort of appearance upgrades to some of their buildings in the downtown. So we are very grateful for that as well.
Does that include their water feature?
Yes.
Yes,
It
it does.
should.
It does include that. That's supposed to be operational again after they finish the work there. Yeah. And I have a June 12th due date, so you have a work session on June 11th. Can't make any promises about whether I'll be here, but if I'm not, I'll have a designated hitter while I'm gone.
It won't be the new girl, will it?
No. No, somebody in the room here will be appointed to be your acting city manager if I'm out of, but I'll still be in the jurisdiction somewhere. Does anybody have anything? I think we've got it covered. That's all, Your Honor.
A few things. One thing, when we had the discussion about about parking there next to community corrections, I pointed out that right on 12th Street, we've got a lot of permit parking that I don't think any permits have been taken out on. So it's in the area. There's actually a lot of available parking, and so I think it's one of the reasons that we don't regard that as our area of major concern. The north end is not our major area of concern.
And don't forget the webinar tomorrow at 10 o'clock if you want to learn about how to run an efficient, effective meeting. I know we have those. We've had it.
Thanks a lot, David.
We're having one tonight. But tomorrow, our boards and commissions. Good thing that evaluation's over. Stepped right in that. So it'll be tomorrow. We'll be covering how to create a tight agenda, how to define roles and boundaries, importance of meeting rules, procedures, and professional conduct, conflict resolution, and working with citizens. And this is really, I think, going to be some training that's helpful to most of our other boards and commissions that don't have the experience that we have here tonight. That really is all I have.
Well, it's been a somewhat of a hectic but a very good week for me. Bill Bardman, who is been the director of the band and orchestra at Oregon City High School, is retiring for medical reasons, and they had their last the night before last, right? It was their last, I think, band presentation, band and orchestra presentation that they had. It's great to hear them play. They did overtures from a lot of the great pieces in the process, but I've never been there for the last one, where they do many things, which includes the actually recognizing the seniors that are graduating. But the reason that they specifically invited me was that we gave a certificate of appreciation to Bill Barton for his 10 years of service. I think that before he got here, we didn't really have uniforms, did we?
No. No, we did not.
No, we did.
No, we didn't. Well, the band didn't use them. We didn't have a marching band when he started.
So, I mean, he
That's
did
true.
a tremendous job in terms of putting the marching band together, for getting fundraisers. I remember people students knocking on my door for donations for uniforms and
We
so
raised
on.
$125,000.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but they, yeah. So I mean, there was a period of time where your kids were there that it existed, then it went away.
I wasn't expecting my communications to debate. What I was intending to do was say the great work that Rick Barton, Bill Barton had done. He did a great job. And it wasn't all tied to the school system either. The band performed at the Teddy Bear Parade when we opened the Wesley Lynn. They performed there. I mean, he's been extremely active in the whole community. They haven't been all school functions, and no matter when certain things happen and so forth, the point is that the band and the orchestra, I think, really grew greatly during his period of time. Commissioner Smith was telling me that there's a new director in place, and there's been an overlap. There's been a very good transition, and I think that was clear in terms of the performances that I heard last night. It was under the directorship. What's the name of the director?
Dana Henson.
Dana Henson.
Yeah.
And as said, they have the Fiddler on the Roof, Porgy and Bess. There were some other overtures that were there, and tremendous performance. I was extremely impressed.
The other thing that's important about that is it's grown. When we raised money for the original uniforms, we raised 110 uniforms. They need to raise money now for another 25 uniforms.
Yes.
So the band has really grown.
Yeah, they were doing a shakedown last night.
Yeah.
That night before last. And the other certificates of appreciation that I gave out was last night.
Yes.
Can't lose track. It was last night.
Last night.
At Wesleyan Park, to the construction class of Oregon City High School. This is under Britt Tucker, and they do a tremendous construction projects on our parks. The Metro Enhancement Fund has awarded them grants. They've been, I guess, doing things over a 10-year period, but most of the development we saw there at Wesleyan Park has been because of these students that do a tremendous job. And we've recognized that effort before, but if you go there, you're looking at professional quality work. It's amazing. I've frequently run into Britt Tucker there at Home Depot as he's buying supplies from the school. So he's spending our money, well, sort of locally. I don't know where the money from Home Depot goes to, but it does pay some salaries in Oregon City. But the other thing that I thought was amazing was in another recognition they got. And I should have checked into the specific organization that was involved. They are involved with developing and testing a chargeable light that can be charged on a bicycle. It's being done with the country of Cameroon, where these chargeable lights women are pedaling on bicycles, and they take this light into their homes and so forth, and it provides light over a 16-hour period, and apparently it's just charged in the normal period of time people are bicycling there. They developed a model. They are actually testing it out, and they got special recognition for that effort. I know that that program has had national recognition. I was not aware until that presentation that they have international recognition for their work. They do a tremendous job. The other thing that participated in, Eric Underwood was there as well as that's terrible. Oregon City Cycles.
Blaine.
William Meyer, thank you. And also Adam Likovsky was there at the Great American Stations conversation that was held at the Benson Hotel of Amtrak, and they were talking about station building, station development, and it was an opportune time to look at perhaps some funding mechanisms for the station that we have ourselves there. They had a lot of stories that they told, both in terms of renovation, they identified in the period of time various agencies for whom you can apply for granting procedures. Eric Underwood was there busily taking notes and so forth, and so we got kind of highlighted towards the end in terms of the station development that we've done here. But it was amazing to find out the number of stations that have sought grants and so forth, where most people know that our station is fairly recent, and there are other stations that have come on to board on the Cascade routes, but also on the what's the route that goes east? Pioneer, something Pioneer. The Amtrak route that goes east, and Leavenworth had applied and got grants to build a wonderful station there. And there was presentations about Albany and their development of their station and so forth. So Oregon City isn't the only one that has been involved in the development of the stations along these new openings that we have. There are a lot of facts that were given there, but 2012 was they had a total of 30. This is Amtrak as a whole, 31.2 million passengers. It's the largest annual total in its history. But more specifically, over the 10-year period, the last 10 years, every year, save one, has been a record breaker. Their use of ridership in Amtrak has increased as actually the federal support of it has been going down. They apparently have some good leadership. The scheduling has improved dramatically, and it's good to have them stopping in Oregon City. So that's basically my announcements. Looking for others. And I see at the top of the list Commissioner Mumm.
All right, thank you. Good information about Amtrak. Thank you. Wanted to make sure that I thank staff for putting this together. I don't know if you've heard any comments from citizens, whether they like or dislike, but that would be kind of nice to know.
Tell them what the dis is, since we're being recorded word-wise.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's your utility bill charging. It breaks it down to water treatment, water distribution, stormwater management, pavement maintenance, and on the back it gives a little explanation about everything. So have you heard any comments?
Thank you, Commissioner Mumm. We have heard a positive comment or two about that
Good.
flyer, which is very nice to hear. And I would like to pass along your thanks to Kathy Griffin in Public Works and Marcy Barrett and Chris Loki in Utility Billing that all did an excellent job pulling that flyer together. They were very concerned that when we made changes to the utility bill, as we all were, that citizens wouldn't necessarily understand what those changes were, and so they did a great job on that. And there's been positive feedback and not too much negative.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's always good to hear.
Thank you.
The water quality booklet, I know that it's a requirement, but it does not, it's pretty thick. Could it be a little, like a bullet point kind of thing next time? Just I don't know if there's a requirement on what you have to put in there.
Do you think
or-
there's too much information provided?
Well, I've heard comments, with the water rate committee and that kind of stuff, that it was pretty thick and that most of them didn't open it and read it. So I'm just thinking about, being.
We can look at that. I've seen other agency publications and they're similar, but we'll take that feedback
Yeah.
and look for efficiencies.
Yeah, like I said, it was a great committee that we had, and they gave their opinions quite freely, so that was good. No, I don't mean it as a bad comment. It was great. It was great to hear from them. Also, I saw on C4, I'm the member for the C4 committee, and C4 is going to meet in August. It would be good for everybody to be there. It's a public meeting on the regional flexible funds. It's their public outreach. So, John, did you want to talk a little bit about our project? I know you and I walked up there, and that we have a grant in for this.
Right. So the project is Malala Avenue. We're calling it Malala Avenue Phase 3. It's from Beaver Creek Road to Highway 213. It's a roadway improvement project that focuses a lot of improvements on pedestrian, bicycle access, and vehicle access. As if you've walked that stretch of sidewalk, there's a lot of missing pieces, a lot of sections of sidewalk that don't meet ADA accessibility, so it's hard for the affordable housing or retirement centers
Which they're both in that area.
which are on kind of the west side of Malala,
Yeah.
to get to the shopping on the east side of Malala Avenue.
So it's kind of across from the Fred Meyer store, just so you know.
Yes, and we're asking for the full amount that Clackamas County's allotment, which is $4.88 million, and it's a competitive process. And there's 2 other projects in the county. There's actually 4 projects in this group that are in the county. One of them's in Happy Valley. It's 129th. The other one is Jennings from McLaughlin to Oatfield Road, and then there's one, the little Portland Rail Bridge. There's a small grant that they're asking for funding to study what should happen with that streetcar bridge across the Clackamas River. So we're competing with all of those projects, and we feel like our project is much better than those other projects. Not that those other projects aren't important, but what I'm hearing through the grant process, which is something newer to me, is that this will probably come down to a decision of our political bodies.
Yeah.
The C4 is made up of representatives from cities and the county, and so it'll be interesting to see. But if you haven't filled out your survey, that's step 1. I do think it's a good idea to have a stronger presence at that C4 meeting in August. And I'm not sure exactly what the format is that they're going to have, but I suspect they'll be asking each city that's on there to do some kind of presentation. That's kind of why we're hoping to have a video pulled together by then, and having Betty there and myself and do the best job we can to present the value of our project to the committee so they can make the right decision and go with Oregon
Which will
City.
be our decision.
Yes.
So I have a quick question. Is the area just on Malala, does it go down Gaffney Lane a little bit to connect that, or is it just on Malala?
No, it's pretty much on the Malala corridor. I will say we're paving Gaffney this year, so it'll be a nice, at least pavement condition improvement there. But the sidewalk connectivity along Gaffney Lane that's missing is not scheduled in either of those projects.
Okay.
And there's $12 million available, and they're anticipating funding 6 projects within Clackamas County.
That's true, except for this category. There's other categories.
Oh, that's
so in this
true,
category,
yeah.
there's only $4.88 million available, and that's why we're asking for $4.88 million. We're actually also proposing to match with a little over $2 million. It's a 3-year funding cycle. I want to say 15, 16, and 17, So we're going to have to, pull our resources together to help meet that match, and we've got some ideas on how we would do that. But I think it's an important project for the Hilltop, and the Hilltop hasn't seen a lot of money in a while. Yeah, there's several phases to Malala Boulevard, but this is just one of them.
So that'll be in August. So I'll make sure you guys all are informed so you guys can show up, and we'll be a strong presence. And that is all of my communication.
Commissioner Poley, thank you.
Yes, the second South End Concept Plan open house was held on a sunny Saturday, last Saturday, and the attendance was pretty good. They said they had around 80 people to start off, right off the bat. I popped in a couple times later, but it was great to see the citizens come and write down their comments and input. So
That's
it was
great.
good. Oh, and then also the Kindle program at the library is going great because there's never any Kindles every time we go there. Our daughter, every day after school, Mom, can we go to the library? I want to rent a Kindle. So, but we will someday. There will be one for us.
I think William Gifford was kind of lucky to get a terminal. Very many times I've seen all the monitors busy, people sitting at them. So they're very, very heavily used.
It is. The library is a great resource, and it just seems like it gets used more and more. Are the numbers rising a little bit? Nice.
Good. Commissioner Smith, we're done.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I just want to point out to the commission that there is item B, which is mayor, and item C, which is commission, and I always sign up to speak under commission, and which I signed up on both tonight, but I was beat by 2. So when you're signing up to talk about commission, you might want to sign up on that.
No, we like being
It kind of put me in an awkward position.
I can't take you off. If I could take you guys off, I wouldn't be a problem.
I wish to thank you for your consideration, Commissioner Smith.
We enjoy being mayor.
I'll tell you what. I'll watch next time.
I didn't even
and,
know.
if they're queuing up while I'm speaking, I'll make sure you go higher up on the list.
Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to add really quickly on a couple of comments that the mayor stated, one of which is the band. Both Bill Bartman and Britt Tucker are good friends of mine and colleagues at the school. I love them both. They're incredible people. So I'm really sad to see Bill leaving with the band. There was a year kind of transition with it. They've both been there. Bill's been there. Bartman's been there part-time this year. Dana Henson is taking over. Even beyond the band and the choir group, the fine arts programs at the high school have never been as great as they are now. It's just a great team of people. The band placed third after the Teddy Bear Parade. They placed third place in the parade in Victoria, BC. The band will be in the Grand Floral Parade Saturday morning, downtown Portland. Very seldom does a band get to march in the Rose Parade multiple years in a row, and Oregon City has done that for quite a while. In fact, they now pretty much get a choice between Starlight and Rose Parade, and are going to be in the parade again. So I think that's incredible. I went to the event for the construction program, which is amazing, and I think we all think that, and so that was a really great program to meet the parents and the students, and a lot of the staff was there, Larry and Scott. It was a really cool event. I wanted to say that there might be some extra drivers on the street tomorrow. All the seniors are gone, running around town, except for the ones that don't know where to go, who will probably come back to school and wander around. The rest of the schools get out next week. I had a meeting with Gail at the Indian Oregon Trail and Clackamas Heritage Partners again. shared some great ideas. Well, shared the news about the possible stage project that either could be at the Clackamas Park or at the Interpretive Center, and shared that information with them. And I had some really, I wanted to convey some ideas to her on some of those projects. And then we actually have our next board meeting on June 13th, so I'll give you a report from that. That's the CHP board meeting.
Great.
That's it.
Commissioner Rock.
Okay, I've just got a couple
Rocky.
things. Pardon me?
I said thank you, Rocky, and Commissioner Rock.
Commissioner Mumm and I participated in a telephone conversation with the Development Ready, the Community Investment Initiative project, which was a very helpful report and helped us to focus on strengths and areas that we can improve in our community development and different areas that the commission needs to work on in getting things in alignment.
Yeah.
So that was a very helpful conversation. Also, I participated in the Pace Setter disaster exercise that was, I forgot, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at Camp Whitcomb. It was my first time to see Camp Whitcomb since it's been redone. And also the disaster, we were told what was happening. It was this aerosolization of sarin, not gas, just the sarin powder. And the people that were participating didn't know what was going on, so they weren't aware of but they were just very sick. So that was a very interesting, it was fire departments and ambulance services from all over the Portland area, Washington County, everywhere. And Life Flight took part in that too. So it was really interesting to watch. And then my last thing is a question about the urban renewal budget. When are we going to get that? Or have we?
You are. The urban renewal budget, which was approved by the budget committee with no changes, will be brought to the Urban Renewal Commission on the 19th of June.
Okay. Because I just saw my name in the paper today with it, and I thought, thank you.
Yeah, we still have to pass the budget at the commission level, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith mentioned something, and boy, the last name of Tiffany, who's doing the Illuminate Oregon City project.
Oh, yeah.
Charbonneau.
I had an opportunity to meet with her yesterday, and she's taking community input. I mean, she's going to be back here, and we saw some of the pre-presentations of things that she had done and ideas that she's had. I'm sure she'll be contacting some of you, but I had a very great meeting with her. It lasted more than an hour. She's young, she's enthusiastic. Of course, to me, everybody's young. Most people are young these days. I think most of us would consider her young and enthusiastic, and obviously very creative.
5:30 Friday night?
Yeah, I was going to say there's 2 meetings coming up.
Good.
2 o'clock Saturday and 5:30 Friday.
Right. And she's going to make a return trip to have more dialogue, too.
Yeah.
She's staying with somebody in Molalla, and she's incredibly enthusiastic, and I think we're going to end up with a tremendous project. And in the process, I think be able to present something about the history of Oregon City in this presentation. And I think I might even understand the art after it's done. And you're off the screen, will you, then?
Yes.
Okay. And with that,